my god, I love this angle. Hey guys, today we are filming a little casual conversation, and I'd like to share with you what I wish I had done. This is Michu, by the way. I wanted to share with you what I wish I had done growing up so that I would have led an easier life up until now. I don't think a lot of the content online that is designated towards self-help is properly directed towards the younger people. And I think it's simply because the experience of being in that age is very niche, almost sort of unintelligible once you've escaped that part of your life, because most of us end up blocking out those years because of how traumatizing they are. And so I want to make this easy for you. So the thing I would first recommend to anyone who is in their teenage years and is trying to figure out the chaos in their mind is the simple understanding that most of the chaos in your mind is inherited. You spend your day surrounded by other people all the time. You know, in school, it's your classmates, your friends. At home, it's your siblings and your parents. And so you never really get a moment to decipher what part of your thoughts are yours and what part of your thoughts are inherited or acquired. And so it's pretty dangerous, I think, to be a teenager in this world, because we now have access to so many more voices beyond those in our close circle. I can't begin to understand what it's like to be scrolling and having all these different people shove their opinions down your throat and you feel as though you have to adopt those ideas. So it's very likely that beyond the voices of those who surround you, you're also constantly swallowing the opinions and beliefs and expectations of the people that you watch on TikTok and Instagram or whatever. So that's the first thing I would say is, you gotta figure out what part of your mind is organically yours. Even for me, in my, 20s now, I realize that a lot of my thoughts are inherited. I don't know how much of my own self-concept I created. And that's the thing about this sort of age where you're at. Most of the way that you feel about yourself is a narrative that's been read to you by other people in your life, especially your family. And I know this is going to be hard for a lot of you guys because some people, in their teens, they're super close to their families, and some of them are completely on the other spectrum and hate their parents. So I'm not trying to, sway you in either way, but it is always a tough pill to swallow at that age when you're trying to understand the nuance of navigating a relationship with your family. Because at one point you sort of know that you're intertwined with them, and another part of you says, well, what am I without you? Who am I without you? And is there a reality where I can exist without being tethered and adhered to your name? You're probably wondering that right now as you're watching this video. Like, what am I supposed to do with myself? Because everyone has told me what to do with myself my whole life. And I want to tell you that, society was made in this way where it sort of forces you into submission and tells you how to act and who to be. So, not that it's going to get harder from here, but the patterns you're slowly being introduced to now will repeat throughout your life if you don't sort of create this boundary now. Because society teaches us to act for others, perform for others, behave for others, achieve for others. And you're realizing that now, as your brain is sort of developing itself and you're coming into your own identity, you're having these complex thoughts about yourself. And I want to affirm to you that those thoughts are valid. You are on the right track. But if you need some guidance, let me be the one to tell you that your questioning of who you are is something that you must never stop. You might feel the urge to either conform completely to the way that other people see you or expect of you, or you might be inclined to go the other direction and completely rebel and act sort of out of character as a means of rebellion. And I want to say, if you can, stay in the gray area. Nothing will serve you better than balance. So that leads me into my second sort of piece of advice I wish I had implemented in my teen years, or even younger, would have to be balance. Sorry about that, my puppies are kind of going crazy. And balance is a very, easy principle to throw onto someone, I think, because at face value it seems so effortless. Balance, right? Just a measuring of the scales so that they sort of sit equally. But in practice, balance looks like sacrifice sometimes. The sacrifice of fitting in, the sacrifice of feeling as though others are satisfied by you. Balance can also feel isolating in a world where people don't partake in a healthy balance most of the time. But something I've learned that I wish I had known back when I was younger was that behaving in the way that most people behave is not going to serve you. And most likely than not, it's going to be detrimental to your growth journey and to just your evolution as a human being. And that's simply because if you are always guided by the way other people are acting, it sort of dilutes your own character. It dilutes your own sense of knowing. And sadly, something a lot of us start to adopt in our teen years is the process of diluting our identities and concentrating it with a herd mentality. We are taught by others, and then we continue to teach ourselves how to follow others and bend to their will. And if you can do anything right now in these formative years of your life, it's to stop that in its tracks. People might continue to push you a certain way and, insinuate that you must adhere to the way that they think and feel. And you might have to play the part for a little bit, but mentally, you gotta know where you stand, you gotta know where your boundaries are, and I'd be the one to tell you that it's completely fair for you to exercise that. Exercise your right to exist independently from those around you, exist authentically in your expression of yourself. So following the path well traveled is not always a key indicator for a successful life, and often it's really just an indicator for a life that's mundane and average and mediocre. You don't want to be mediocre, right? What else? I mean, honestly, that's the sort of main gist of what I wish I had done. 4 years of high school. I mean, I was in high school for 3 years, so even in those 3 years, I was just like completely corroded by the way other people acted. And so I can't imagine, for people who don't know, I graduated high school early. So I did that because I was actually getting so fed up with the constant conformity and having to blur the line between who I was and who others wanted me to be. You are in a point in your life where your idea of yourself, your perception of yourself is bound to change. Don't be so tied to the way that you feel about yourself, whether that's negative or positive. Be open to changing the way you see yourself. I've been talking a lot about other people and this and that, about those who surround you, but there's also some really important accountability to be taken at this age for what you feel about yourself. Because it's at this time in our life where we start to learn that our thoughts have consequences. And if we continue to see ourselves in a negative lens, that will only continue to perpetuate for the rest of our lives. And also, your negative perception of yourself informs the way other people treat you. It's really annoying because you're like, how does my thoughts just create my reality? How does that happen? How do people just know that I feel insecure about myself and then they treat me accordingly? Well, that's the power of energy. I can't really elaborate beyond that because it truly is energy. You exude what you are within, and so people can really pick up on low self-worth. And all we do as human beings is we mirror each other. If I am in a setting and I'm constantly thinking about my low self-worth and things that are wrong about me, it's very likely that other people are picking up on that energetically, even if they don't know how to name it. It's informing the way that they behave towards me. So accountability is very important at this age. that's all. I'm really dedicated to making videos like this as often as I can, because as much as I like to cater to my usual audience of all ages, I am always very concerned with the state of our children. You might not be a child, technically speaking. I don't honestly know what the designation of a child is anymore, but a youngin, if you will. And I'm very concerned with the way that we teach kids how to blindly follow others without questioning what's being done to them, and how we tell our young people to behave accordingly without asking them to show up for themselves. So I'm just looking out for you. Anyways, if you want more advice from me, feel free to click the subscribe button. Comment down below what you liked about this video. I'd love to see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!